Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Massachusetts Pirate News. I'm James O'Keefe, captain of the Massachusetts Pirate Party, and I'm joined today by Quartermaster Joe and
Ahoy.
First Officer, sorry, Joe, and First Officer Steve.
Good evening, Jamie.
So we have a a member meeting coming up in August 27th. That we'd love for you to come out and join us. That's going to be up in Nashua, New Hampshire, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we also have in 13 days' time online. Uh, we'll have a Boston area organizing meeting as well. We've got currently 3 topics today. The first is something we we're talking about at our previous member meeting, and that was what we can do to how we want to encourage folks to get active in local government and spread transparency about what's going on in local government. Steve, do you want to quickly cover that?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. So this conversation started from Jamie and I talking about newspapers, and once upon a time, local newspapers were quite common. And over the last couple of decades, they tend to have gotten bought out, merged, or just gone out of business. And as a result of that, papers, news outlets that would once be really diligent about what's covering city council meetings, planning board meetings, school committee meetings, etc. You really don't have that. I mean, in the post-pandemic era, we at least have the option of virtual participation, but not everyone can sit through a 3-hour meeting twice a month to necessarily follow what's going on. So just sort of as a personal thing, every public meeting I've attended for the last 5 years or so, I've taken notes, typed them, and posted them online. I know a number of people who I follow on social media who will attend like city council meetings and whatnot, and basically, tweet out what's being said as it's being said, kind of like live tweeting the meeting. While this isn't, it isn't necessarily, it's not at all the same as the local newspaper. This sort of open source journalism, I think is, it's important and it's useful, because, you give people a window into what's happening locally, and, where there's really not a whole lot of coverage being, where things just, there isn't going to be any news coverage. You can either like watch a recording of the meeting or read the official minutes when they're approved a month or 2 later. So that's the basic pitch.
Well, that, and I would have to say that by attending these meetings, we encourage people to be active, especially on the pirate front, for just being part of the government and starting to become the change that we're looking for.
Yeah, and I mean, there's sort of like 2 levels of going to public meetings. One is you just sit back, listen, and observe, right? Or or you tweet about it, you blog about it, whatever. That's all well and good. Another aspect is participation, and I know that folks who've never done it before, the idea of giving comment before a board and an audience can be a little intimidating. I've definitely felt that myself when I first started going to like board and committee meetings. And it's not something you have to do right away, or you have to do it all. But if there's an area of your town, if there's a certain aspect life that you're interested in, like maintenance of parks, or planting trees, or wetland conservation, etc. Go to your town or city's website. Public meeting law says that the boards, when they conduct these meetings, they have to, provide an agenda 48 hours in advance, stating what will be discussed and, how one can attend the meeting, and just show up.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Joe. I put a link. There'll be a link in the description. There's a link in the chat. We have a page on our wiki where we're just kind of putting together the how-to notes so that folks going forward don't have to reinvent the wheel, but they can learn from what we've learned and be able to apply those from the get-go. So we're always looking for new ideas for ways people can get engaged in local or state or even federal, potentially, government and organizing as pirates in their communities. So please, if you're interested in helping, if you have ideas, you can contact us at info@masspirates.org. You can also check out our website at masspirates.org and sign up for our periodic email announcement. We have a bunch of mailing lists that are there. You can just check the menus and find out ways you can get engaged. So we had another talk. We like piracy, and mostly we like privacy. And so Steve came across an article in the Boston Globe about what you can do to protect yourself in this, as they say, post-Roe era, which hopefully will be very short-lived, because we believe in people having control over their own bodies, and no one should be able to tell you what you can do with your body. So again, Steve, do you want to give us the cliff notes here of what Hiawatha Bray at the Globe suggests?
Yeah, so as Jamie said, this was the article was written by Hiawatha Bray, who is a technology columnist. That's the word I'm trying to get, columnist, at the Boston Globe. And the title of it was Post-Roe, Here's What You Can Do to Protect Your Digital Privacy. So as with the Supreme Court overturning Roe, what we've seen several states move to enact some fairly extreme, extreme restrictions on a woman's right to get an abortion, to get reproductive health care. And there's like a whole bunch of uncharted territory in front of us, unfortunately. But, this is kind of one of these cases of when you criminalize, what's, things that, when you criminalize something that people need by necessity, reproductive health care, you're essentially creating a new class of criminals. And we don't know what I think we don't quite know how diligently, enthusiastically, exuberantly the state attorney generals are going to enforce this stuff. But, if they do, you can count on, presumably you can count on having state law enforcement officials rummaging around your digital history that they can get their hands on if they think that if they have reason to suspect that you've committed a quote unquote crime. So Jamie has, periodically joked that smartphones are, tracking devices that you could make phone calls with. That's really not an exaggeration. Different apps can be asking for your location. Sometimes, it's because it's necessary. You want a rideshare thing to pick you up. So the rideshare thing needs to know your location, but something like a speed testing app or a flashlight app, does not need to know your location. And, one of the examples in the article is, let me flip over. I think the website was myactivity.google.com. Yes, myactivity.google.com. So this is a Google website where you can go in and just see some of the history that Google has on you, either by way of searches or YouTube views or location data, et cetera, et cetera. And, you have the option to delete it or to turn off information, turn off history tracking. But, one of the things that law enforcement, likes to, my understanding, likes to look at is, what are people's search histories? What have they, what websites have they visited? What videos have they watched? That sort of thing. And, if the default sort of position for a lot of companies and a lot of apps is to just collect the stuff and maybe sell it. So the article gets into a couple of ways where you can sort of turn that off. And if no one's storing it, you can, that makes it a lot harder to use it against you. Anyway, we'll post a link to this. We'll post a link to the article in the description, and it's worth a read. It's not total comprehensive, but it definitely provides a list of things to think about. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Steve. So I just want to say, go, Joe.
Sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to add to that we've definitely covered privacy in the past. We do have other videos where we're all about your privacy, so those are definitely worth a look as well.
Yeah, I was going to add, we've done what are called crypto parties to teach people how to protect their privacy. In the COVID age, we haven't had as many of those, but we could certainly, if folks are interested, we can schedule some of those. Steve has done some good talks on Tor, and I want to recommend that you download the Tor browser. It works. I would suggest going to torproject.org and downloading it, installing it. It's really geared towards, there are versions for phones, but they may not necessarily come from the Tor project. So, you don't know what other stuff someone might have added potentially, since it is open source code. But if you go to torproject.org, you can download that. And that is a very good tool for browsing while keeping yourself, while keeping your activities private. I do want to stress that if you use it, you shouldn't be logging into your Facebook. You shouldn't be using Google or necessarily logging into accounts that you might also log in using another browser, because then that allows anyone tracking potentially at those sites to be able to associate you with that Tor browser use. And this particular searches, say in the case of Google, for example, that those searches came from you, even though you might have been coming through Tor that has multiple layers of encryption and is hiding where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. So certainly, we're always here if you want to talk with us. You can always send us an email at info@masspirates.org, and we'll give you some good pointers. We have a quick one-page document. I'll add it to the description. And then the other thing to think about is, as Steve mentioned with your phone, there are, especially with things like Apple, you can go into the privacy page, you can turn off ad tracking, you can customize your location services, and some of these are also available in Google Android. You should go in and turn off as much as you can, but also assume that they don't always work, and use services like Tor or DuckDuckGo for searches, especially sensitive searches.
Well, a big thing too is every time they update your phone, I'm of the Google world, so every time they update your phone, they turn all those back on.
Sorry, what was the last bit, Joe?
Every time they
every-
update Joe's phone, that all that stuff gets turned back on. He says, "I have a flip
Every
phone, so
time.
I don't have that problem."
But even with the flip phone, though, they can still triangulate you from the cell phone towers. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know, using something. So in that case, you know,
No,
it,
it's
it
not. It's not going to be. It depending on the density of GPS tracking is generally quite accurate and quite conclusive.
yes.
Tower tracking, it depends on the density of towers. In Back Bay, Boston, I think they tower triangulation would probably provide someone with a pretty accurate picture of where you are. If you're out in if you're in a less populated area, maybe not so much.
Right. And so we had one other topic to discuss. I don't have a link for that. But Joe, why don't you lead us off?
Well, so as is pretty well known right now, the assault weapons ban from the Democrats, Democrat-led, though they did have a couple of Republicans, I believe, joined them on this. But essentially, they passed it through the House. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to go through the Senate. Now, I am all about sensible gun control, though I just know that this was going to get struck down. Even if this did make it through the Senate, the Supreme Court's just going to strike this down because, as they've clearly stated, they want to ban all guns, and this is just something that if they ban all guns, then the only people that are going to have guns are people who really, really just don't care about the law and are just going to have their guns anyways.
Well, did you say? Sorry, Joe. Did you say assault weapons ban or all weapons ban?
They said assault weapons ban, but they clearly stated that they just want to ban all weapons. Some of the people leading it, their goal is to ban everything, and they came out and said it on this round of deliberations that they're looking to get rid of all common use weapons. So whether it be
Who said
so
that?
that's
They is a big term. I'm just like we should put names to that.
I think that is worth a video in and of itself because you know that I am on the camp where I would like to arm our grandmothers, and make it so that if we arm all of our grandmothers, then nobody's going to be a fool because Granny's going to hold it down. But that being said, I believe that we should still keep a legal path for us to have firearms and for the responsible users. I think Massachusetts, for the most part, has it right on how to go about that whole process. And I'm not looking to make things easier for those who are trying to process this through. But that being said, I think that the common sense gun control makes sense. Outright banning everything, when we outright ban things and we make a new class of criminal, then that's just gonna encourage those who are already criminals. Like that shooting that just happened at the mall, that was a gun-free zone, and that was a zone where guns were not supposed to be, and there was still a shooting there. So obviously, the people who are breaking the laws don't care about the laws, and I don't know where I'm trying to really go with this, but I think that there's a lot more thought that has to be done and a lot more than just some gesture or grandstanding. And we need a really serious conversation on how to handle this. And we need to do it in a nonpartisan way where we can sit down and figure out a real good solution as opposed to just coming up with some thing to get votes or say we did something and just slap a band-aid on it. We need one unifying rule to help protect us all.
I completely agree with you that we need to we need to go and put bills in place that and pass laws that have been adequately tested and that have data. We need data driven policy. But uh, I will also say that from a political standpoint, it is useful to go and show a contrast between what your party does and what other parties do. So, for example, like if, say, the Pirate Party had control of the U.S. Let's say we had control of the Senate in Massachusetts, but not the House. We would still want to put forward a bill that bans, for example, giving Hollywood $88 million every year to make their movies and stuff like that. We'd
Or
still
facial
want to do it, even though we knew it would fail in the House. So there's still utility in that.
Cool, but I have to say that one of the things that makes the Pirate Party so much different than all the other parties is a lot of the things that we're putting forth, like the right to decency, the right to individual autonomy, the right to privacy, ending corporate tax breaks. All those things make sense. All those things are completely driven by actual common sense, by the facts. We're very fact-based. We're like, hey, this hasn't worked. Let's knock it off. Hey, this is working. Let's do this. This works over here. This has been proven. Let's do it. And I can say that one of the reasons why I'm so pro anti-drug war is because it's been proven that it doesn't work. It's proven that it doesn't do any justice. So, like, if you ban the guns, like, look at the cities that have banned guns. It doesn't work. Okay. There's still plenty of crime. There's still plenty of guns getting flooded in. Look at England. They banned all the guns in England. You know what they do now? They have a problem with knives. So what are they going to do? Ban knives? You're not going to be allowed.
Yeah, but they also don't have any mass shootings, right? Or very few.
Well, instead they get run over by buses.
I mean, it's not well, let me put it this way. Like, one of the things, like 60% of all gun deaths are simply suicides. Right?
And mostly
that's known. That's a known statistic. And so they may have the same number of suicide attempts, but we have more, say, a percentage of the population, but we have more successful suicide attempts when a gun is involved.
I 100% agree that mental health is a huge issue, not just in our country, but across the world. So I think that the want to live and the want to, that is a major topic in and of itself. And not having a convenient way for people to off themselves is that, but if they don't have if they don't have the firearm, they're still going to try and off themselves in a different way. So, and I think that's a conversation worth having entirely. In and of its own, mental health is a major topic that I think that needs addressing. And I think that's the one good thing about this whole assault weapons ban is the dumping of money into those institutions. The common sense gun control did address the mental health and the suicide rate, especially amongst some of the more forgotten classes of people. So at least that is some silver lining goodness in this, even if I just see this as a type of like grandstand soapbox type that got passed.
I mean, absolutely. We certainly believe that mental health care and dental care and other care,
All for
transition care are all health care and should be supported. We're all on the same page for that as pirates.
Yeah, that is most certainly true. And Steve actually just found the bill we're speaking of for the assault weapons ban.
Thanks,
thank you,
Steve.
Steve. You're the best. But yes, I do believe this is probably going to die in the Senate. That particular bill. It is the bill 1808, and it probably will be filibustered and die in the Senate. But that being said, it doesn't just banning the guns outright isn't going to actually stop one, the guns from being already out there that are out there, two, people making homemade versions of it. Like what happened in Japan with the guy that they banned guns in Japan. The guy just made a gun out of like a ginormous, terrifying gun, just out of tubes and pipes and stuff he made themselves. I mean, if there's a will, there will be a way. And so what we really need to focus on is the reasons and the whys behind it. Ending the corruption, ending that lack of hope to be able to build a better future. Because if people don't feel like the world is going to be a better place, or that it can be a better place for them, then of course they're going to do things that are much more extreme. It's when there's the death of hope that some of the worst things, the worst atrocities happen. And we as people who are going to be leaders need to do a better job in giving people a path to a brighter future. A brighter future for themselves, for their families, for their loved ones. And I think that speaks truth to power in the whole suicide.
It's important for everyone to feel loved. Really good, Joe. I like that.
So, well, and that's why I want you guys to come out, join me up in New Hampshire, and join us in our meetings and really start to try and make a difference. It's important. Well, we need to attend those local meetings. So, thank you for hearing my rant.
Always useful. Always good to listen to. And so with that, we're pretty much at time. So we want to thank you for watching our short news segment. We endeavor to run these 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and hope that you enjoy them. Please like, share, subscribe. You can always find us at masspirates.org and add a comment. We always like to hear your feedback. All right. Well, thanks, folks. Take care and have a wonderful, hopefully not too hot week. Bye. Thank you.